Why didn't you tag me? Social exclusion from Instagram post hurts, especially those with a high need to belong. This is presented by Cass, Alyssa, Anna, and Sharell. This article and the study was published by Butner in 2022. A brief summary of the article. This study sought to examine how exclusion on social media makes a person feel less satisfaction than if they had been included in the representation. Measures satisfaction after different kinds of inclusion and exclusion in simulated social media posts. The series of studies evaluated different scenarios in which people contributed to a group picture or project and then experienced various forms of exclusion. Overall, 5 experiments were conducted in order to test the effects of exclusion on a person's satisfaction. Ultimately, the studies did experience setbacks in completing them as planned because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The procedure. In the first study, participants were introduced to 4 scenarios that the researcher felt resembled exclusion on a social media platform, in this case Instagram, and asked to answer a survey about their experiences and dissatisfaction with these scenarios. In study 2, the participants were given the same prompt and then presented with one of 3 possible outcomes. The participants were then evaluated based on need satisfaction with their given outcome. In study 3, this study was very similar to study 2, but only presented the participants with one of 2 outcomes. One outcome simulated inclusion and another simulated exclusion. So basically just narrowing it down to one or the other. Study 4A, this study had participants meeting and forming groups to create a collective piece of art. Participants were presented with different scenarios where their contribution was acknowledged or omitted, and then asked how it made them feel. Study 4B. This was largely identical to Study 4A, and the participants were measured prior to the manipulation.
The study participants and 2 diversity differences. The total number of participants in the study was 1,149. For study number 1, there were 176 participants, and they were all active Instagram users. The average age were between 24 to 25, and the SD, or the standard deviation, was 7 years, and 81.81% were females, including 1 non-binary. For study number 2, there were 269 participants, and they were between ages 18 to 30. The average age was 25 years, and SD was 3.54 years, and 74% were females and 1 non-binary. For study 3, there were 286 participants, and they were also between ages 18 to 30. The average age was around 24 years, and SD was 3.54 years, and also the female were 65.73%, including 1 non-binary. For study 4A, there were 168 participants, and there was online data pools from the 2 different European universities. That was supposed to be an in-person experiments, but the COVID-19 affected it, so they found a way to do the experiment online. The average age was around 22.17 years. SD was 4.10 years, 82.14% were females, and 1 non-binary. For study 4B, there were 250 participants, and they were all UK residents only. The average age was 38.50 years. SD was 12.16 years. 69.20% were females, and 2 non-binary. This study included more females than males. Next, we're going to talk about the theoretical approach. The theoretical approach applied in the study was contextual approach, which is the relationship between individuals and their physical, cognitive, and social worlds, which also studies social, cultural, and environmental influences on development. For study 1, they wanted to see if individuals on Instagram feel ostracized by situations that go beyond not receiving likes, and the situations will be like not being tagged in a story or a post, being cut off from a photo, or seeing the photo of others at an event that you also attended. For study 2, the theory was the individuals that are excluded or included in Instagram experience less or more need satisfaction. For study 3, the theory was that previous social exclusion offline or on Instagram both have a significant main effect on need satisfaction, but the effect of the previous social exclusion or inclusion on Instagram is larger rather than in person. Study 4A and study 4B were almost identical, so they both wanted to see that if the participants that are excluded experience need satisfaction.
The researchers employed a qualitative and quantitative design to the study. A pre-hour power analysis was ran using G-power for study 2 and study 4A. Study 3 used a 2x2 between subjects design. Lastly, study 4B's design was largely identical to 4A and aimed to collect data from participants via prolific academic. All analyses were conducted using RStudio version 1.4.1717. Following established conventions for t-tests, they also reported in Cohen's d. They also reported unstandardized regression coefficients B, as well as standardized betas for regression and simple slope analysis. For power analysis, they reported the input effects and used in G-power. For regression analysis, moderators mean centered prior to analysis and conditioned effects quoted. For study 1, the frequencies of the different exclusion experiences, as well as the associated need, satisfaction, and mood levels are reported in Table 1. A one-sided Welch t-test showed that not being tagged resulted in significantly less need satisfaction compared to being included by being tagged in study 2. A 2x2 ANOVA revealed a significant main effect of offline inclusion versus offline exclusion on need satisfaction in study 3. Study 4A was in line with results of studies 2 and 3. A one-sided Welch t-test showed that not being acknowledged in the group leaders test resulted in significantly less satisfaction compared to being acknowledged. Study B was replicating studies 2 and 3 conceptually and replicating study 4A directly.
Strengths. One strength of the study was that the study was able to see the results of ostracism, not being tagged, and how it affects our needs. This study discussed the need for self-esteem, need for control, and the need for meaningful existence. 5 different experiments for the overall study. This study was reliable, valid, and well executed. Some limitations were the negative effects of not being tagged are generalized to experiences that did not occur directly on Instagram. Study 4A and 4B. Many social media platforms such as Facebook use similar tagging mechanisms like Instagram. Different platforms that focus on individuals' belonging needs versus informational needs. COVID-19 pandemic affected the study. Students started online study 4A. Diversity was limited, and the participants ranged from ages 18 to 30, and majority of the study was female.
5 studies established that not being tagged threatens fundamental human needs, particularly for individuals with a higher need to belong. The combination of observational insights study 1 with vignette studies study 2 and 3 and in vivo experimental manipulations studies 4 and 4B represent a multi-method approach that strengthened their findings.